Hello there. I thought I'd put a video together about an interesting question that someone asked me recently, which was, what if the Sinclair method is a placebo? Now, this is actually quite a valid question because a person can achieve quite a lot with auto-suggestion, and the placebo effect is a very real recognizable thing, and it's something that they guard against in medicine. When they do medical trials, they often do double-blind placebo trials in which both the patient and the physician don't know who's being given a placebo and who's being given the genuine pill. So it's quite an interesting question because it could be argued, in fact, that Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, work through a system of placebo, from the strength of belief, if that's one way that you want to look at it. But in any case, I jotted down a few notes, and this is why I've got my nerd specs on today, just to explain my thoughts on this, because, as I say, it is quite an interesting question. My own opinion on this is that it's a firm no, just on the basis of the fact that if the Sinclair method genuinely didn't work, if the people who were successful through using naltrexone were only getting well through the strength of their own belief in the treatment, I don't think we'd be seeing a gradual extinction curve in their drinking. What I mean by that is it would be much more immediate in effect. It would be a case of someone would take the pill for, I don't know, a couple of days or whatever, and then they'd be declaring themselves cured, if they were really that suggestible. But that hasn't been the case at all. What's been found with the scores of trials that they've done is that it does take 3 to 4 months typically for a person to reach their extinction point, that it's in fact quite gradual, and that it can actually take a lot longer than that. So that doesn't really correlate to what my expectation would be if the success of this treatment was based purely upon a person's expectations of the efficacy of that treatment. So there is that. Yeah, another thing which I just thought of that's a barrier to the placebo hypothesis when it comes to the Sinclair method is just around the animal trials that David Sinclair did in Finland prior to. I mean, this was long prior to any human trials. What he did was he trialed naloxone, which is naltrexone's sister drug, with some specially bred rats, which actually were bred to be able to crave alcohol, and he found that he was able to actually extinguish the craving for alcohol with these rats. Now, he got quite a lot of success with that, and he replicated that. I think I read somewhere over 100 times over, and it was practically 100% with these rats. And when you look at the whole question of placebo and then you apply that to rats, it's got to be said that rats don't really have the type of emotional investment or the type of biases that human beings have. So, an animal trial is a pretty good indicator of whether something might work or not. So there is that in its favour. I think a better question just moving on, is what would I do if I was actually proved wrong? Now that is a very good question. What if I inexplicably started craving alcohol tomorrow and started drinking again? Would I persist with the Sinclair method, or would I move on to something else? Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's when it comes to the question of my own biases on this, because this is where I'm at, I think. Although I am quite convinced by the studies with the Sinclair method, and also with my own experience with the Sinclair method, just about as far as I possibly can be. I mean, we're talking 99.99999%. There is that 0.00000, to practically to infinity 1%, where I do like to be the type of person who is able to entertain doubt, and also to entertain the possibility that I could be wrong about something. It is worth mentioning, I mean, just when it comes to my own objectivity on the Sinclair method, that I have an older brother who's in fact in AA, and he has a AA symbol tattooed on his bicep, and he's had that on his bicep for a number of years now, and he has been sober for quite a while. I haven't done the same thing with the Sinclair method. My view on this is just as a matter of integrity. I don't want to have something etched into my flesh until I'm about 90 years old. So that really tells you something about me and my own objectivity, even though I am someone who, is over the moon with what's happened with my own experience with the Sinclair method and everything. I'm not, I'm one of these people who I would like to think would have the humility to admit if I was actually wrong on this, and I do take some pride in having the ability to also change my mind. So maybe on my deathbed, maybe that's when I'll get a tattoo of, I don't know, not sure whether I'd get a tattoo of Claudia, maybe, sorry Claudia, maybe Dr. Sinclair or something, whatever. Anyway, so that's about my own objectivity really, and about, some of my own views. Just to close, it is worth pointing out when it comes to the whole placebo question, and as to whether I only got well through the Sinclair method because of my own sort of preformed bias. It's worth pointing out that this in fact actually opens up another series of questions, because if it was basically a case of bias and suggestibility, then the question could be asked, well, in that case, why didn't AA work for me? Why was I a dismal failure with AA? If I was someone who was so suggestible and so ready to drink the Kool-Aid for anything going, why didn't I drink the AA Kool-Aid? Why didn't I have any success through rational recovery? Why didn't I have any success through CBT? Also, why didn't Camprol work for me straight away then? Especially if I'm someone who has a bias towards medical treatment. If I'm that way inclined, then why wouldn't something like Camprol therefore work straight away? But again, it didn't. It was a dismal failure. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that, I think. And I shall say bye bye.